I spent 100 days building a zoo on Oneblock Skyblock. From the tiniest of fish to the enormous panda, I will attempt to rescue as many animals as possible to make my very first zoo on one block. I will be making a video tour of the zoo on my Instagram, so if you are interested in watching it, my Instagram is tootsie.yt. On day one, there wasn't much around me, so of course I had to start digging the infinite block that was under me. And soon enough, I wasn't alone anymore because Bailey the pig had just spawned. It was a bit tight for the two of us to stay on only one block, so I immediately started expanding the island. I then got a chest with a water bucket in it, and so I used it to basically place a block under the infinite block so that falling blocks such as sand and gravel would stay right there. That night, Paolo the pig spawned as well as Ava the cow, and then of course Mr. Sven the sheep came along, as well as the two brothers, Leo and Liam. After that, one of my trees grew, so of course, I was careful to collect the sapling that had fallen. On day two, the tiny island was getting so crowded, so I decided to place some fences, just to be sure I won't lose any of the animals. I was happy to get a grass block and some more saplings in a chest. And then, tragically, Liam fell through the infinite block and suffocated, so yeah, that was a little bit disappointing. The next phase was the caves, so I knew I had to protect the animals at all cost because some creepers would spawn and probably explode the place. So of course I also made a large hole so I could just quickly push the creepers in the hole, you know, just to be sure. I got some iron from that phase, which meant that I could shear my sheep, and I finally had a bed, and also I got a few mushroom cows, which meant that I had an unlimited source of food. By the end of day 3, I also got a chest with some spruce saplings. On day 4, I decided I would start building the island for, the plains phase for all the pigs and the cows and the sheep. So I collected plenty of wood and, started building the platform. I actually used some birch because I had some extra birch, and I was anyway going to cover everything with some dirt. I even made a little tree farm in the center, just, planted trees in a row, so that I would have plenty for making all the platforms I wanted to do. On day 6, I started making some really quick enclosures to separate the sheep and the cows from the chickens, and the pigs I just had to wait for the carrots to grow, and then I would bring them up. On day 7, I continued planting and cutting down trees because I would need so much wood, and then at one point I got these rabbits and one just didn't want to live, but the others, well, except that one that fell as well, the others I managed to get them safely in a pen. On day 8, some spiders spawned, and even though they weren't aggressive, I still decided to kill them because basically I wanted to get some string, and sadly I didn't even get any. I also got some pretty aggressive zombies, and yeah, the fact I had no armor on me made that it hurt quite a bit getting hit by these zombies. After bringing the rabbits up to their new enclosure, I decided it was time to make myself a shield. On day 9, I was able to make myself a bow from some string I'd collected in the chests, and then some spiders spawned, and this time they decided to drop some string. On day 10, I made my farm a tiny bit larger, and then I realized that a skeleton had spawned because, of course, I'd forgotten to lit the island up as usual. To increase the amount of dirt I had, I basically combined gravel and dirt to make coarse dirt, and then I basically just had to hoe it down and it would transform back into dirt. On day 11, I continued my mining, and I actually got a map so I could see, how my island looked, and then it was time for phase 3. I decided that before I would actually do the icy tundra phase, I would finish off the plains island. So basically what I was planning to do is in each phase I would basically have an island for all the animals I had managed to save. So I started off with the chicken and pig enclosure, and then I was able to release the rabbit in their very own enclosure. I then realized that the island was a bit too small, for the sheep and the cows, so I extended it a little bit and then bought the animals in their new pens. I then started the snowy phase, and quickly enough I got this wolf, so I carefully put him in a little enclosure. I was now starting to get a good amount of iron, so I decided to make myself my first chest plate, to take a bit less damage for when these skeletons would spawn, for example. I also wanted to keep track of how my island was doing, and so I put the map I'd gotten on an item frame, to kind of see if everything looked alright from above. That night, of course, I forgot to place some torches down, so I had the visit from a few monsters, but thankfully they were in the enclosures, and the next day, of course, I lit everything up. On day 14, 2 more skeletons spawned, and they're actually easy to kill because basically they would end up by killing each other, so yeah, that wasn't too bad. On day 15, some Arctic foxes spawned, and they were a bit tricky to get in an enclosure, but I managed, and I even bred them. I was delighted to finally get a block of ice, which meant that I now had an unlimited water source. Some more Arctic foxes spawned, and sadly one just, fell into the void, sadly. And then I got another wolf, and I decided to tame him with the bones I'd collected from the skeletons. On day 16, a polar bear spawned, so that was quite exciting. I had to, carefully push him in an enclosure, and I was also able to make myself some iron leggings. I then got another wolf, and then there was a monster party. It was not the first time that I played Oneblock, so of course I knew that I had to be quite careful, so I killed all the mobs from a distance. I then continued working on the sheep and cow enclosure with all the dirt that I had collected. I then ended up the day with a little skeleton fight and making some arrows and armor. Finally, on day 18, it was time for the ocean phase. So right before starting the ocean phase, I wanted to have the Plains Island completely finished, and I also wanted to start working on, the snowy enclosure. So of course I started by making a large circle, and as you can see, the island was starting to get quite big, and basically I was planning on covering it with some snow. On day 20, I made the outline with bushes, and I also decided to make my very own snowman so that I could collect plenty of snow. Sadly, the snowman melted, so I decided I would make, a small little box so that my next snowman would not actually melt and I could get plenty of snow. It was actually a really good idea because it was so much easier just, to get some snow right under the snowman rather than following him everywhere. I then started fencing off the area with some walls and some fence gates. I continued placing some snow until day 22, and then it started raining, and as you can see, I did not put any torches anywhere, and so loads of monsters spawned, so that was just not very smart, so I quickly took my bed and slept, and then I had to finish off all the skeletons and creepers that remained with my bow. So yeah, once again I realized I had to, light up the island because it was really getting a bit too dangerous just having these mobs spawning. I then ended off the day by feeding my animals. On day 24, I released Mr. Snowman to the open because I had completed the island, and then I started fencing up the area because I needed to make 2 separate enclosures because the polar bears and wolves would attack the Arctic foxes, so yeah, I had to be careful with that. It was time to start the ocean phase. The first animals I got were some turtles, so, I carefully pushed them in an enclosure so that they wouldn't just, fall into the void. And I actually got my first diamond, which was pretty cool. I then organized my chests to make the sorting easier. By the end of the day, I got some drown that spawned and they didn't hurt me too much. On day 26, some fish spawned, and I actually managed to save one of them, which was pretty cool. The last time I played Oneblock, I wasn't actually saving the fish, but this time I really wanted to try and save as many animals as possible, regardless of the animal. Then some guardians started spawning, and I actually wanted their drop for some reason, and they would just, you know, like, they would bounce everywhere and just fall off, so it was a bit silly, and I really, really wanted the drop. I don't know why. What was the purpose? It was, you know, a bit by curiosity, I guess. And then that pufferfish spawned, and yeah, that hurt quite a bit. And then an elder guardian spawned, and I was super smart, you know, so I blocked him into that little area, and of course I got mining fatigue, so yeah, that was just super good. Just, you know, having to wait 5 minutes, not being able to mine anything, so trust me, after that I made a hole. To my great dismay, 2 dolphins spawned, and I really could not do anything. I just couldn't save them, and I really didn't like that. So I decided the next dolphin that would spawn, I would save him. So I basically started making, you know, the ocean island where I would make a pond, and I also made, you know, kind of like a little river tunnel that would connect to a pond, and, you know, if ever a dolphin would spawn, he would basically just have to swim over to the pond. I knew that the dolphin would probably jump, so I had to put a roof over the pond just to be sure that nothing happens. And then on day 31, a dolphin spawned, and thankfully he swam up to the pond and all was well. That day I also got some turtles and some lily pads, and suddenly it was time for another monster party, and I actually didn't think the 𝓟𝓪𝓬𝓽 would like shoot at me, because last time they had spawned they didn't, but this time they did. Plus I got mining fatigue, so I had to sleep, and some of my animals escaped from their pen, and suddenly there was an explosion on the snowy island because my snowman had thrown snowballs at the creepers, so yeah, it was quite a catastrophe. So sadly, I had to kill my snowman so that it wouldn't happen again, and then I continued working on the ocean enclosure, making sure to save as many fish as possible. On day 34, I decided to bring 𝒞𝓃𝓏, my dog, over next to the snowy enclosure because I was planning on putting all the wolves there so that she wouldn't be alone. Another guardian spawned, so, you know, I pretended I went to see my chickens, you know. I just didn't want to get hit by him. And then that night, I have no clue how I managed to save both fish. Like, basically, one was still jumping, so I got the water and just saved him before he was gonna, like, fall into the void. So I thought that was a pretty cool clip, even though it was just for fish. On day 34, a guardian spawned, so I went to see my chickens, you know, just... I suddenly wanted to go see my rabbits too, strangely, and work on the pens instead of going to see the guardian. But then, in the evening, you know, I just had to be brave and kill him. And I freaked out because I almost fell into the void, so that was why my mouse was super shaky. On day 35, it was finally time for the jungle phase. So once again, before starting a phase, I wanted to finish off the enclosure for the previous phase. So as usual, I started off by filling off the platform with wood, and then I started making the outline of where I wanted my pond to be. I then decided to make my pond a little bit deeper than just 1 block so that the dolphin wouldn't suffocate accidentally. On day 37, I made myself a new pickaxe, and then I went to start placing some sand, you know, to make the bottom of the pond. I don't know if I should say pond or more like the aquatic enclosure, but yeah, I just made a mix of prismarine blocks, dead coral, and sand. On day 38, I filled up the pond with water, and then I started placing some kelp and also some seagrass, and then of course I had to make some adorable little lilies in the water. To prevent the turtles from escaping and falling into the void, I fenced off the area with some prismarine walls. On day 39, it was time to bring the turtles over to their lovely little pond, and trust me, they were really so happy to finally be able to swim around in the water. On day 40, I placed some bushes all around the little pond, and I also went to bring all the fish in the pond. Like, honestly, I think there were more fish than turtles in the pond. And then, of course, it was time to let Willy, my dolphin, back into the pond, and you could see he was very eager to be in the pond. On day 41, I started off by making a nice little staircase going down to the enclosure, and then I placed some signs like you would actually see in a zoo with, for example, facts, on the inhabitants. So of course, you can pause the video if you're interested in reading the facts. I even put some facts for the pigs and the rabbits, and I also let a little sign for my rabbit Snow who recently passed away. On day 42, I started the jungle phase, and I got these lovely little parrots to spawn, and I immediately tamed them. And then the mob I despise the most spawned. Vexes. I hate Vexes, so of course I went to see my chickens, and just made sure that the Vex couldn't see me. On day 43, an ocelot spawned, and I made sure to get him inside an enclosure because ocelots really love to jump into the void for some reason. At the end of the day, I was so happy to get my first panda to spawn. He was really, really adorable, and I don't know why I said first panda because I only got one panda and one polar bear, which was kind of disappointing. On day 44, I got 2 horses to spawn, so I got them, of course, in an enclosure, and then some horrible Vexes spawned, so I hid in the chicken and pig enclosure. I was quite disappointed when I noticed a pattern. Basically, all the horses were the same color, all the parrots were the same color, so yeah, that was really a bit disappointing. I mean, for a zoo, it's nice to have a bit of variety in color, but oh well. And then there was another monster party. It was horrible having all these Vexes spawning. It was just a nightmare. And then after that monster party, guess who spawns? Some other Vexes. Oh my god, there were too many Vexes. When things had calmed down, I decided I would, write a little book about the zoo explaining, the different enclosures and all. And then I got once again some white horses to spawn and a few more ocelots. Witches weren't too bad, you could just kick them in the void, but I don't know why I got so many Vexes. It was horrible. I just hate Vexes so much. They hurt so much. They are impossible to kill. Really, it was horrible. But the one thing that came out of this day that was really positive was that I finally got a lead. So I could bring, all the foxes, the polar bear, and the wolves in their enclosure. At one point, John the polar bear was hurting, so I quickly had to break the berry bush next to him, and the wolves were really angry at the Arctic fox. On day 49, that witch managed to poison me, and that really was not very fun. I had collected quite a bit of clay, so I decided to make some little pots, and I would basically place them on a fence, and then I would put some flowers in the pots, and I thought it just looked quite cute, to place them around the island. I once again started placing some little signs around the area, indicating little things for the future visitors of the zoo. On day 50, it was time for the Red Desert phase. On day 51, I started building the jungle enclosure. I had collected a lot of jungle wood, so of course I made the platform mainly out of jungle slabs. I of course planted my jungle saplings to be able to then get more and more while I farmed the trees. I really wanted to get some grass for this jungle enclosure, so I made a sort of little path of dirt, and gradually the grass would spread. On day 52, I continued placing some dirt, and then I realized that I would quickly be running out of dirt, so I kind of put different blocks such as granite, mossy cobblestone, etc. And I even made, a little lake so that I wouldn't have to actually place any blocks there, and it would really save up on space. On day 53, I started fencing off the area by using some cobblestone walls and some jungle fences. Finally, it was time to bring all the animals up, so of course I sat up the parrots and I started bringing the horses, the ocelots, and the panda over. I was really disappointed that I didn't have another panda because, the enclosure consisted mainly of white horses, which looked a bit weird for a jungle, but, that's how it is. I also decided to do some fishing and I was able to breed the ocelots. On day 55, I noticed one of the horses was in the pond, so I just, pretended we had a seahorse there. I then removed the grass blocks that had spread to be able to place them in the jungle enclosure, and then I started mining the infinite block. So the first two animals I got was a red fox and a llama, and at one point this poor red fox escaped into the polar bear enclosure, so yeah, that really was not very smart, poor thing. I spent the rest of the afternoon mining and I got a few more foxes. On day 56, I was super disappointed because the ocelots had despawned. On the other hand, my first villager spawned and he actually had a name. He was called Henry. I continued mining during the afternoon and at one point some husks spawned and I actually just let them out to just have a fight, to make it more entertaining. On day 57, a wandering trader called Yvette spawned, and I bought a coral block from her so that I was able to get as many sea pickles as I desired. When a donkey spawned, I actually decided to bring him over with all the horses, and he actually met a nice girlfriend and they had a lovely baby. That afternoon, I realized that Yvette was actually with the polar bears for some reason, and then I went to continue mining and I got two pillagers that didn't even have a crossbow for some reason, and they were like super nice, and they really reminded me of Jeff from the other Oneblock video. On day 59, a Vindicator spawned and I was really quick to shoot him into the void, and then there was a monster party and I killed everyone except one of the Jeffs. On day 60, the Red Desert phase was finally over, and I started making the Red Desert Island. As with all the other islands, I started off with a circle made out of wood slabs. For this, I used jungle slabs because I had loads, and then I covered everything with some red sand, some sand, etc., some dead bushes, and I put loads of leaves all around to make it look nice. I then fenced up the whole area with some walls, as well as some acacia fence gates. I also had some acacia saplings that I planted, of course, and I thought it really looked quite nice and quite like a red desert. On day 64, I was able to start bringing the animals, so I started with the llamas because they would just follow each other. Then I moved on to Henry the villager, who just followed his profession blocks. And then, using some leads, I brought all the foxes over. I also realized that the grass had arrived at the jungle enclosure. On day 65, I realized that one of the wandering traders still needed to go inside the enclosure, and he didn't really want to go, so I made a fence and kind of forced him to go. The nether phase had arrived, and so I made a sort of start of an island for the nether with a tiny hut out of stone so that I could run to it if any ghasts and blazes attacked me. Day 66 was the calm before the storm. I just perfectioned, the enclosure and put some signs up. And then I got prepared, I made myself some diamond armor, and on day 67, it was time to go. On day 68, I got my first magma cubes that I killed quite easily, and then I got a bee in a chest. I really did not know why. And then this hoglin spawned and freaked me out. You will see me freak out a lot in this phase, by the way. The proof is I flinched so bad when this strider spawned. Sorry, strider, you are not scary. I just got freaked out. And I brought the strider to the house and made it look a bit cozy so that he would feel alright waiting for the lava. And then some ghasts spawned. You do not want ghasts on your Oneblock island because, they do little holes and you don't want to fall in these holes. But I had to carefully kill them with my bow, so I was quite happy to have my little cobblestone hut to be safe enough, and then I had to block the holes, of course. For the nether enclosure, I needed silk touch on my pickaxe to be able to, pick up the blocks with, I don't know if it's called mycelium or something else. At the end of the day, I went to relax with my foxes. On day 70, my striders sure were delighted that I finally got a lava bucket. So first thing I did is I went to give him his lava bucket. You know, I made him a nice cozy pool. And then I went back to fighting all the random monsters, the hoglins, the wither skeletons, the magma cubes, and then yay, it was time for the monster party of the Nether. Thankfully, it actually didn't go too bad because I had my bow. On day 71, I started the day off with a nice and relaxing blaze fight, and then I got a lovely strider to keep company to my other strider, and they were just chilling in their lava pool. On day 72, I continued with the nether phase, and then I got enough obsidian to be able to make myself an enchanting table, and soon enough, I managed to get silk touch, so that was really exciting. So basically, a wandering trader spawned, and I killed him as usual, and his llamas really were so angry at me. Like, even when I was mining or far away, they were spitting at me. They were like so angry that I killed their wandering traders. So I actually had to tie them to a post far away so that they couldn't hit me. To add to that, 2 ghasts spawned, and one of them broke my bed. I wasn't very happy about that. But all was well until this hoglin spawned. Like, really, this phase is just too much, okay? I just could not wait for it to stop. And finally, it was time for the upgrade. On day 75, I decided to make a cobblestone generator because I now had 2 buckets of lava, and then I started working on the Nether Island, and when I was destroying what I had made, basically this skeleton shot at me and, you know, he could have almost ended it right here. To connect the main island to the Nether Island, I made a cute little wooden bridge, and then I destroyed my really precious cobblestone hut, and I put, you know, a mix of different nether blocks all around, and I filled up the center with, for example, some quartz, some netherrack, etc. And I decided to incorporate the warped forest as well as the crimson forest to the island. It was time to move the lava pool. So basically one of the striders actually went in my cobblestone generator, but then I made them a nice and large lava pool, and I almost died because I burnt myself quite bad, but the striders were really happy about it. Well, not about the fact that I had burnt myself, but more about the pool. Once again, a wandering trader spawned, and this time he had a cactus. So of course I got a cactus, you know, for the desert enclosure. This time I did not kill the wandering trader because I did not want to have the llamas angry at me forever, so you know, I just let him be. By the end of day 79, the nether enclosure was finally finished, and it was time to start the idle phase. And it didn't start very well because basically when a bee would spawn, she would just fly down into the void, so I made a kind of strange bee cage. The idle phase isn't really idle because, you know, some angry bees stung me and then I fell in the lava because they were running after me, well, flying after me. So yeah, that was a tiny bit scary, but then they relaxed and I decided to bring one to the bee cage, but she disappeared before that. On day T1, I got my first 2 cats and I decided to tame them, but the donkeys and the mule were really annoying me when I was fishing, so it was really funny. On day 82, some really cute little slimes spawned, but I had to kill them because they would despawn anyway. Luckily, I actually managed to get a bee to follow me, and she happily danced around a flower right before loads of her friends just attacked me for no reason. Talking about attacking for no reason, there was a monster party, so I just simply waited for the bees to become peaceful and went out. I was actually glad of the monster party because I got loads of bees in my little bee cage for the idle enclosure. In that phase, you can also get some phantoms, but trust me, during the day, they're just flying away in the sky with some fire, so they're not very scary. And to finish off the day, I bought some more angry bees turned peaceful into my bee cage. On day T4, I continued enjoying the idle phase because it really was not too stressful. And then sadly, there was an upgrade. And the phase is Desolate Land, and trust me, it's not gonna be a very good phase. I'd actually forgotten all about it and it was horrible. You will soon find out why. So of course on day 85 I started the phase, so I had some silverfish, and then of course I had 2 creepers, so that was super nice. But the only good thing was I actually got a polar bear egg, and John now had a mate for life, so he was quite happy. On day 86 I got some cave spiders, which were actually super cool and super chill, so that was pretty nice. And then guess what? I had some skeleton, skeleton whatever, horses and skeletons. Oh, skeleton riders, that's it. And they did freak me out a bit, and I managed to save 2 out of 4 horses. So guys, what do I hate more than Vexes? Evokers. Yes, evokers. And of course there was an evoker that spawned, so of course I had to hide. I really hate these mobs. On day 87, I got a bunch of these sort of skeleton warriors. I don't know how you would call them. And then, the most dreaded thing, a monster party with evokers. Okay, with evokers, guys. So, lovely. And don't ask me why I did that. I thought I could just kill that evoker and be safe, so I opened the door, shot at him, and one of his Vexes finished me. Yes, I'm so happy I did not play in hardcore because, oof. So to be honest, in hardcore, I would have not opened that door. I would have not tried things out. So, you know, that is why I died, and I don't really care about it because, yeah, I just wanted to try it out for fun because I knew I wouldn't lose the world forever. On day 88, I got a bunch more skeleton riders, but this time I managed to save 3 horses, so that was pretty cool. And then to finish up the day on a super good note, another evoker spawned, so yeah, that was just terrifying. You can see the fight lasted till the night, you know, it was just lovely, you know, such a relaxing moment, you know. I was here to make my zoo, and these evokers just scared me. On day 89, I fought off some more skeletons, and then I had enough diamonds to make myself a diamond helmet. The rest of the day was pretty chill, just a few skeletons and some spiders, and finally I finished this horrible phase, and it was time for the end. So I started off by making an enclosure for the mushroom cows because I now had some mycelium. And then I fenced off, you know, the whole island, and I don't know why I put loads of stone blocks like bricks and all. It just looked horrible. I have no clue why I did that. So let me explain what happened next. So I started by killing these endermites. All was well. I thought it was gonna be super easy, so I removed the fence and a slab and died. Yes, once again, I died in 2 days. Great, well done Tootsie. So of course I lost all my diamond tools, weapons and armor, and yeah, when the endermites attacked me now, it suddenly hurt way more than when I had the diamond armor on me. So this is ridiculous, but really the endermites would hurt me so much that, you know, I got kind of scared that, you know, at some point they would actually kill me and it would be absolutely ridiculous. I had gotten some name tags and I thought it would be the perfect moment to use them, so I named one Poof that I wanted to put on a magma cube. And I almost died because of the magma cubes. Yeah, that was super cool. But yeah, here's Poof. He's in his tiny little glass box, you know, just chilling. Next, I got in a little fight with a shulker, but yeah, it wasn't too bad, and I decided to get a name tag for Bailey, which was the very first pig on this island. Gradually, I was able to get, you know, some iron tools, and I even was able to get a diamond pickaxe, so I was quite happy about that. But I got 𝒞𝓃𝓏 a girlfriend, and they had a little baby boy, and these 3 dogs would basically help me with the horrible endermites because, yeah, I was actually struggling, and yeah, that enderman almost killed me because all I had on me was, you know, a little bit of iron armor, so that was super cool. The monster party spawned loads of endermites, and I actually lost one of my dogs, so At that point, I realized that maybe, you know, I should stop with the dogs. Look, that poor 𝒞𝓃𝓏𝓻 flying in the sky. That is just not normal. So yeah, I sat down the dogs and decided to kill the endermites by myself to be sure I wouldn't lose another one of my friends. On day 94, not much happened. I got into a fight with a shulker, some endermen spawned, and also, of course, some endermites had to spawn, you know, just... You know, you cannot have a nice day without endermites spawning, so yeah. And then I got the sign on day 95 that the end was near and the portal was here, but I had nothing on me to be able to do the ender dragon fight successfully, and anyway, I was making a zoo. So if you want to watch an ender dragon fight, you can watch any of my other 100-day videos, because I did this ender dragon fight so many times. I had finally finished the end phase, but now it was time to incorporate the end as well as the idle phase in one island, as well as, you know, the tiny little mushroom enclosure in the corner. So I made a pond, and basically I used some concrete powder thinking it was clay, and when I put the water, I realized how silly I'd been. So I replaced the concrete with some dried coral blocks. After making the idle part of the enclosure, I did the end part, so basically I just put some end stone and made a sort of enclosure, and that's when I saw an enderman had a cactus in his hands, and I thought it was the only cactus I had, so I checked and it wasn't, so I didn't kill the enderman. On day 98, I started building the bee enclosure, so it had to be nice and closed up, or else the bees would simply fly off into the void. And things sure did not go as planned. Basically, I knew you could pick up the beehive, you know, without silk touch, but I sort of forgot the fact that the bees would get super annoyed. So yeah, I died for the third time in only 100 days. Well done, Tootsie. On day 99, I started bringing the mushroom cows over to their pen. So it was a bit tricky. I actually had to push them in a pond. So yeah, I did my best with that, and when I brought them over, there was a creeper. I saw him in the corner of my eye, so that sort of freaked me out, but I managed to kill him before he exploded the island. I then continued decorating the idle part with some trees and bone mealing the grass, and then I bought a bunch of chickens, I bought my cats, I bought a few horses, well, a horse and a mule, and yeah, that was it for the zoo. Day 100. Finally, we are here. The zoo is accomplished. So guess what I did? I simply went to have a look at all the enclosures I'd made and all the animals that were there, and it was just so nice. I accomplished so much in 100 days, and it was really, really cool. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoy this video. It was super fun to make, and it really put a twist to Oneblock, you know? I wasn't just surviving to get the ender dragon. It was more of, you know, collecting all the animals, well, saving, I should say, because collecting is a bit weird to say. But yeah, I was just saving all the animals, you know, doing my best, especially with the fish and the dolphin. Even though, sadly, you might have noticed the dolphin probably suffocated, but oh well, it was still a really nice experience. And yeah, I hope I will see you in next week's video. Love you!